Hello there and good to have you along. I'm Howard Bentham and this is OxTalks, the podcast powered by Enterprise Oxfordshire, the new name for Oxlem. Enterprise Oxfordshire benefits from the support of Oxfordshire County Council, enabling this new organisation to continue the great work previously offered by the county's local enterprise partnership. Oxfordshire is home to many world-class innovators and leaders, and OxTalks gives you the opportunity to meet these incredible people and hear their fascinating life stories and business ideas. Although focused on Oxfordshire, we're proud to have viewers and listeners to OxTalks from across the UK and overseas. We always welcome feedback, comments and suggestions too. Please feel free to share your thoughts on the topics we discuss on our social channels. We are at Enterprise Oxon on X and Enterprise Oxfordshire on LinkedIn. This series also sees the launch of our new official OxTalks Instagram account, home to dedicated clips, news and all things OxTalks. So be sure to follow along at OxTalks_podcast. You can also email us by using the email address on the podcast description. In this edition, we'll explore the journey of one Oxfordshire SME, HotTea Mama, and how this thriving company not only keeps its purpose and values, but utilises these as the crux for what HotTea Mama is all about, women's wellness. Women live longer than men, but spend more of their lives living with illness and disability. The UK loses 150 million working days each year due to poor women's health. The UK has the largest female health gap in the G20 and the 12th largest globally, with women's health concerns often misdiagnosed or not taken as seriously as men's. Across UK business in recent years, there's a shifting focus from solely concentrating on the bottom line to a model of operating with purpose and being values-driven. These companies are centering their reason for being around sustainability, social impact, and causes that matter to both people and planet. Interestingly, purpose-driven companies tend to experience 40% higher levels of workforce retention than other organisations, according to research by Deloitte. Doing business with strong values and a clear purpose should be seen as a win-win. But what are the pitfalls of such an approach? And is there a danger of crossing the fine line between authenticity and virtue signalling, which can risk alienating customers? Our OxTalks guest has a wonderfully positive story to tell. Her company, HotTea Mama, has gone from strength to strength, winning numerous awards, whilst retaining its philanthropic roots, working with a number of women's health charities. HotTea Mama is now stocked in various leading retailers, including Holland Barrett, Selfridges and Planet Organic. I'm delighted to welcome to OxTalks the founder and CEO of HotTea Mama, Bethan Thomas. Bethan, great to speak with you. I'm fascinated by your story and I can't wait to explore this with you. But can we start with probably a more simple question? Why tea? What's the fascination with tea?
I think I grew up in a household with Welsh parents. So my dad in particular, we would always joke, can't function. Like he doesn't drink water. He drinks black tea, like a standard PG tip style. But he won't leave the house. Like before he leaves the house, he has to have a cup of tea in order to exit. So I was always brought up really enjoying tea. When I went to university, I sort of thought I was very snazzy for drinking peppermint tea and hot Ribena. But it was actually when I moved to China when I was 21, I kind of graduated, moved to China, and I just got slightly obsessed with it because I would
slightly.
Yeah,
I love that. It's a beautiful understatement already. Yeah.
Well, it's just a different way of drinking tea. So the bus drivers would have, whole leaf tea in a big flask. And when I got on the bus to go to work at the building site, men were walking around, in suits, which I loved because
Chinese
you never see
builder's tea.
Yeah,
how about that?
Literally builder's tea, but whole leaf green tea, guys in hard hats wearing full suits to go and weld on skyscrapers. But always catching my eye, and there's hot water taps all over, every city. So people were just topping up with hot water all through the day. And I ended up sort of going to tea houses at the weekends. Shanghai, if you travel down the coast, there's huge tea producing regions. So I then sort of spent my weekends going down and just fell in love with tea and thought how cool it would be if I could be a tea buyer. Pursued that from that point on.
And now the Queen of Tea, as we'll learn. Fluent in Chinese, you've got a master's in modern Chinese from Oxford, and you're the only non-Chinese person to graduate in tea science from the Agricultural and Forestry University in Fujian, is it?
Fujian, yeah.
Yeah, in China. Tell us the story.
I guess niche would be my story. Yeah. But yeah, very much followed a love of, I think really food and drink in China, but tea seemed to be the thing to me that I could actually get into career-wise. Lived in Shanghai for a year, worked in marketing, got transferred to South Korea, realised how much I missed China. I mean, I loved Seoul as an incredible city, but yeah, wanted to go back to China, but was very aware that I couldn't really learn to read and write Mandarin if I was working in an English-speaking office, because the main benefit I had to anybody at that young age was that I could speak English. And I ended up, applying to come to Oxford, as you mentioned. The course was split between Beijing and Oxford, and basically sat in a basement library for hours on end, wrote learning Chinese characters. But when I was in Beijing, I wrote my thesis about the tea trade in Sichuan province with the aim that I would get a job at a tea company. So I ended up getting a job at a company based in London, but with offices in Hong Kong, specialised in Chinese, Taiwanese, Japanese teas. And it went from there. And I think I ended up not being very happy in a job that I had in London, and saw through the tea trade press that Fujian Nonglin Dashue, the university I went to, was starting a specialist course about one specific type of tea, which is my favourite type of tea in the world, called Tea Guanyin, in the sort of hometown of that tea, Anxi. And I wrote to them and said, can I do this course? Like, I was a bit bored, a bit miserable. I would really like to come out. And they wouldn't let me do that course, but they would let me do a tea science degree. So I negotiated with the company I worked for at the time that I would work part-time for them and study at the same time over there. So improved their kind of Chinese tea sourcing, and studied at the same time. And it was the best thing like I did, other than having kids later on.
That's a great story.
But it is, I mean, I think it's one of those ones of, if you'd have asked me at 21 what I would have ended up doing, it wouldn't necessarily have been that. But I just kind of followed at each stage what I was passionate about, and ended up with a very niche but wonderful career.
Well, and here you are now with HotTea Mama. Tell us how that came about then, and also what you set out to offer, because we're talking about purpose-driven businesses here, aren't we?
Yeah, so HotTea Mama was kind of actually the brainchild of my friend Kate. But essentially, I had my daughter in 2015, my first child, and Kate had 2 children over the space of sort of a year, just before and just after I had Keris. And both of us at that time, I mean, your life fundamentally shifts in a way I think you can't ever fully prepare for. And that experience, plus its effect on your body, kind of really inspired Kate. She kind of said, well, she doesn't really drink any tea. She's a big coffee drinker, Australian. But suddenly she was like, oh, well, I've got really bad morning sickness. Is there anything that can help, And I was like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, have a look at this. I realised a lot of the herbal blends, which is where all the growth in the tea market was. I was working still as a tea buyer at that point, developing all these herbal teas. They're full of licorice. So licorice can naturally raise your blood pressure. And if you're at risk of preeclampsia in pregnancy, it could be quite dangerous, but you're also told not to drink caffeine. So you kind of find yourself cutting out caffeine, but not able to drink all these licoricey teas if you're aware of that issue. Otherwise, you just potentially give yourself high blood pressure without realizing why. So these different, Kate asking me lots of questions, me coming up with solutions kind of for her. She kind of said, why is nobody making these kind of, potentially herbal teas that are a lovely gift for someone as well? Because we were struggling to even find something, it's all about the baby, not about the mum. And these conversations basically led to us looking at, well, what teas would we make if we were to make a kind of bespoke range that was catering to what our life experience was at that point. So trying to help morning sickness, birth preparation with raspberry leaf, breastfeeding, sleep. How can we make them both delicious, functional, and a really lovely gift? And we just started ourselves playing around, really, totally focused on that. And then over the years, grew very organically, finding our kind of core target customer nicely, and we've since expanded. So we had many women get in touch saying, well, I'm not pregnant, but I have PCOS, and like, is there any herbs that can help with that as well, or teas? And there absolutely are. Similarly, saying their mums were going through menopause, and was there anything that could support them naturally too? There absolutely is. So that's how we kind of expanded the range to not just be about pregnancy and motherhood, though that was very much the core of it, to be about periods, perimenopause, parenthood, kind of the whole gamut. And we don't even just do teas anymore. Despite our name, we have a range of hot chocolates that are really, really popular as well, with the same functional kind of purpose. And we're about to launch a decaf coffee with collagen, which feels like I'm cheating on tea. But yeah, again, a demand in the market for decent decaf that can also help you, again, postpartum, hair loss, skin's an issue, perimenopause, very similarly. So we kind of see the problems that we have as women and we see our customers having, and try to find a natural solution to support them through that.
So the early days, I'm intrigued about the setting up of the business, the ups and downs. You're solving problems. I love the way you're thinking about it, not just as a problem solver, but it's a lovely gift as well. I mean, it's just so, that's very you. Even only meeting you briefly, I'm getting that impression. But what about the ups and downs of setting up the business?
Oh, it was awful.
Yeah, it's not easy, is it?
No. So I think I don't think it's unique. So Kate was very much the driver at the beginning. It was her idea. She kind of needed me, right? Like, I could make the product.
You're the brains of the operation.
I'm the tea brains.
The tea brain.
Yeah. But at that point, I was pregnant with my second child. My daughter was 1.5. And Kate, who's Australian, was only in Oxford. We'd met in Oxford years before, stayed very close friends, but her and her husband came over for a year and then were leaving again. So I think if I'd have thought any of this through in as much detail as I possibly should have, I would not have done it. But we set up the business, and Kate pushed all of the administration and everything through, which was great. She had a really good friend who did our first kind of packaging design and website. He did an amazing job. And then she left. So I ended up with a 2-month-old baby, our first stock arriving to my house because, there was no offices or anything like that. And in between Hector sleeping, in the daytime when my daughter was at nursery, I'd try and pack some orders or do an Instagram post. And then in the evening, similarly, between sort of the hours of 8 and 12, that was the time I had available. But I was also extremely sleep deprived. It was complicated by the fact that our box manufacturers didn't put on a layer of varnish on the first boxes that we produced. So they were really badly scratched, like during transit to customers. So they were ending up just looking horrible. And as you pointed out, I liked the idea that, I really struggled postpartum with my daughter. And it's amazing because people are so kind and they gift you all sorts of things, but none of it's about you. It's kind of like your identity's disappeared and you're just sort of looking after this baby. So I did want to make sure that if somebody got the tea, it was like a sort of a proper hug in a mug, but like everything about it was a supportive, lovely experience, and you could gift it. And obviously it's turning up scratched to bits with white marks all over it. So I had to repack every single box by hand, write on the best before and batch code, which had previously been inkjetted on by our packer. And it was sad times. It was very, very sad times. But people did buy the product. So I suppose the high of it is there's a need that we're meeting that nobody else is meeting. We're on the right track. But also, like, how on earth are we actually meant to grow this in any way when.
Anything you would have done differently there? I'm trying to think how you can really. I mean, you're managing a young family and...
No, I just think you just have to put one foot in front of the other.
Wow.
I mean, you could not do it right. I think that's the only other option. And I think that's why we've probably succeeded, is that I'm not a quitter. So you just have to find a solution.
The bloody mindedness.
Yeah, you just have to,
yeah.
Exactly, just find a solution to every problem. And that's one example, but there are about 200, or more as you go along.
So what business supports have you utilised since starting up then? And would you recommend other businesses that are starting up using this kind of support?
Definitely. So and again, Kate drove this, but we met with a business advisor from Oxlep at the very beginning, before we kind of had product, to go through a business plan and what we thought we should do. And if I'm honest, as previously mentioned, I was pregnant and very sleep deprived. Like, I don't fully remember all the advice that we were given, but I'm sure we followed it and, had success at the beginning. So that was really great. And we've since always kind of taken part in training courses. We've been lucky enough to get grants from Oxlep. So I think definitely tapping into that local government support is really important, because no matter what your idea is, I get the sense that, they're just excited that people have ideas and want to support. And for us as well, they've been really important separate groups, because it's very lonely running a business.
I was going to say the networking aspect of it is huge.
And for me in particular, Kate leaving, couldn't be helped, but meant I was very physically alone within the business.
She's back in Australia now, isn't she?
Yeah. So she runs the Australia kind of market for us now, and obviously she's supported along the way. But it's always
multinational now.
I know, but it's always had to be in kind of like almost a business administration way as we've been growing, because she can't go to sales meetings.
And as an aside, she was a ballerina.
She was, yeah.
Right, okay. So we've got you doing tea in China. We've got a ballerina here.
I know.
An Aussie now living back in Australia.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think, the networking side's important. And we're part of a group called By Women Built, which isn't Oxfordshire based, but again, finding if you've got a purpose behind your business, whether it's you're part of B Corp or etc. For us, By Women Built is also a really strong network that we tap into for support. It's just women-run businesses, and I've met quite a lot of people in the Oxfordshire area through that, which has been nice as well. That's
a good tip. Let's look more closely at the purpose-driven element to the business, as well as taking a wider look at businesses who take that approach. You've partnered with a number of charities that support women in different ways. Tell us a bit about them and why you choose to operate in that way.
So I think women are really at the heart of what we do. Women's health is massively under invested in, and we're never claiming to be a kind of a medical company, but a natural approach to support women is really important. And we just wanted to make sure that we can work with charities who are also doing that and may not have the full easy access support. So Colourful Beginnings we work with, who support families who have babies in NICU, so intensive care. Olga, who set it up, she was inspired by her own story of having 2 children who were in intensive care for a really long period of time. And I think it's part of that community network that we drive a lot through our social media in terms of growing a community online who've helped us commercially, but also just sharing information, sharing support is a really important part of what we do. And Colourful Beginnings totally, support that as well. And then around menopause, which is again a massively underfunded area.
Yeah, Gen M, isn't it?
So Gen M, we're a founding partner. There's a lot of research that they do into just showing how women can feel very invisible when they reach perimenopause, which can be from, your 40s onwards, the average age of menopause, which is purely the last, a year to the last day that you have a period. On average is about 52, but women can be affected by hormonal shifts for a long time before that, and that doesn't necessarily go away afterwards. Yet we do in our culture have a strong tendency to sort of wipe out women in terms of visibility in a huge number of areas. And Gen M look purely at the kind of commercial support for women, but through research and talking to retailers.
Why do you think as a society we are like that?
Well, I think we put a huge amount of importance on reproduction. Like, we are inherently still, to a certain degree, a patriarchal society. You know, equality hasn't been fully achieved. And the majority of people who lead the majority of companies are men. And we do tend to represent the things that we know ourselves. Like, I have a company that focuses on women because I'm a woman, and I've had the lived experience that I've had, and I'm just utilising the skills I've got in that way. So I think it's just important to try and counter that to some degree.
Looking on your website, you can see the lengthy list of environmental and social commitments you've made, and it really is quite a lengthy list.
I think we have our policy on there. So
yes, yeah. I was scrolling all the way to the bottom of the page. What are some of these, briefly, because we'll be here for the rest of the podcast listening to the list, but more importantly, why are they so sort of central to what you're about?
So I think there's, again, a key part of what we're doing is it very much came from the experience of becoming mothers. And a key part of being a mother is wanting your children to have a good future. And the only way we can contribute to that in a kind of environmental way is what we do with our product. So to me, at the very beginning, we weren't able to produce organic teas because they were so expensive compared to non-organic. And we wouldn't have set up the business and been able to have it sustain itself had we done that. But as soon as we had the volume available, we switched to organic sourcing because it's undoubtedly better for the world. Like, we should all care about topsoil. This comes from someone who spent time studying at an agricultural university. But it's a huge, huge issue that, you know, our children are going to face, and their children. So if we can contribute in some small way by sourcing organically, that's great. Again, all our packaging is compostable and biodegradable for exactly the same reasons. We want the product to be as good for Mother Nature as it is for all of the kind of mums who drink it. We produce all of our packaging and we blend and pack in the UK. I think that's important, like both economically post-Brexit to support local businesses, but it also is environmentally sensible, and helps our carbon. So I just feel passionately, I love women and I love the planet. And if our business can benefit both those things to the degree that it ever can, that's really important.
Cynics might argue that there's a lot of virtue signalling in the purpose-driven sector more widely. Is that a fair observation, do you think? I'm thinking about the greenwashing that we see, the lack of authenticity. I mean, you, with all respect, come over so authentic. It's your passion is there to see, but it's not always the case when you look at some of the marketing campaigns. And again, the hypocrisy that is involved in this. Looking at the industry more widely, what's your view on that? It
depends what companies you're looking at. I don't think it's possible to make a blanket statement about it. There's absolutely greenwashing in certain companies at certain levels. But I think my experience with the businesses that I've met through doing the work we've done is that particularly at a startup level and a scale up level, it's genuine, authentic desire to be purpose driven and also say make money, because you can't sustain yourself without that. And I think, to me, the proudest thing we've ever done is employ people. Like, our workforce is entirely female. I would like to employ some men. We do have consultants who are men and men on our board. But on a day-to-day basis, there are 6 of us in the team. Everybody's female. I'm the only one who works full-time because I want the business to support the women that I design the product to help. And the majority of our staff want to work either school hours or part-time. And we've grown to be a 1.2 million turnover business doing that. I don't ever want that to change. Obviously, we'll have to employ more people, but I think it's really important to acknowledge that there are very many businesses doing the exact same thing. There are many who will put out a marketing campaign having, like in the tea industry, there were plastic in tea bags for a huge period of time. And it took years and years and years for that to change. Some companies still have that. And that was a pure CapEx decision on those companies. They would not have gone out of business if they changed earlier, but they would not have made the profits that they wanted to make. And I think that's very sad. But they have now made that change. And I think there's enough...
if you like, the social pressure that's come from that. I'm intrigued on a practical level. Short-term problems can affect long-term goals in purpose-driven businesses for sure. I mean, securing cash flow, if you needed to get that sale and you think, actually, maybe it's not quite with a company that aligns to our values, would you take it? It's one of those decisions. Where do you sit on situations like that?
I think on international banking and like cash flow issues, I don't have a deep knowledge of it. We've been lucky. We've been lucky.
It's that sort of pragmatism
to grow
thing, isn't it? Over
but at the moment we have money coming into the business and then it goes straight back out, and we're lucky to be able to manage it at the moment.
I love your realism too. Purpose-driven business has to be harder work than just running, shall we say, a more mainstream business. You've set yourself a whole load of bars to jump over, haven't you? And hoops to jump through, or whatever analogy we want to use. Is it worth the effort, Bethan?
I think it is. Yeah. What's interesting is I was visiting Ireland recently. We have a really good distributor in Ireland, and I was visiting a health store that stocks our product. And the lady who manages the store said to me, "Oh, you've made it too specific. Like, you just need to say this is a green tea and just sell the green tea." And I was like, no, but I want people to understand if they're going through perimenopause, this is a tea that can support hot flashes and stress and anxiety specifically for that time. And you think, well, yeah, we probably have reduced some of our sales to some degree. You could say, could we have just been a broadly appealing tea company and sold lots of, our Take a Pause blend to just people who like green tea? So I think, to some degree, it's definitely harder work, but it's also easier. For us, it's much easier to target with our marketing and to get information from those people about how to develop our product range. So I think you could say you're making a niche maybe that's hard to fulfill, but if that niche is big enough, which for us, all women will go through menopause. 2 million women a year are either pregnant or in their first year of having a baby and are very interested in nutrition and health. And similarly, as mentioned before, 1 in 10 women will suffer from PCOS or endometriosis. That's a big market that we can understand, meet, and help whilst also growing a business. I think it's quite cool, even if it is a bit harder.
Bethan, thank you for the moment. We'll chat again shortly. You're listening to OxTalks, the podcast powered by Enterprise Oxfordshire. Feel free to get in touch with the Enterprise Oxfordshire team to comment on what you've been hearing. You can find us on social media. We're on X at Enterprise Oxon, or via LinkedIn. Search for Enterprise Oxfordshire. And now via our new official OxTalks Instagram account, home to dedicated clips, news, and all things OxTalks. Be sure to follow along at OxTalks_podcast. Perhaps you run an organisation or a company that's looking for some specific help, or simply need a pointer towards the most appropriate business advice available. Why not try the Enterprise Oxfordshire Business Support Tool?
Enterprise Oxfordshire's Business Support Tool is here to help your company, whether you are just starting out, growing, or ready to take on a new business challenge. If you are looking for the latest advice and support, complete our Business Support Tool today and get set to receive a bespoke action plan for your organisation. Head to enterpriseoxfordshire.com to find out more.
Let's speak more with Bethan Thomas from HotTea Mama, based in Oxfordshire. Since those early days, Bethan, I'm just fascinated about how things have changed. You've alluded to this already about social media. This is so important to your business, isn't it? Explain why.
Well, originally we really only grew because of Instagram. So the only task that I set myself was to post once a day on Instagram every day. And that was all I did. Had a full-time job, 2 young kids, but I would always do some kind of post. And that is what grew our community and grew all of our sales originally, because we didn't have ads budget or any kind of marketing budget. So that is the only reason we have a business. Instagram is extremely important. We still post daily and continue to kind of nurture a community there, but we invest heavily in advertising on Meta for Facebook and Instagram. But TikTok is where I think there's just an insane amount of growth. Yeah, I was at their head office last week because the sales at the moment are almost keeping pace with our website sales.
This is on TikTok? Just
on TikTok Shop, because they've sort of commercialized TikTok. And they gave a really slightly terrifying stat that people spend on average 128 minutes a day on TikTok, so over 2 hours. They'll spend about 30 minutes on Instagram. And obviously short form video, you can shop direct from a video without ever leaving that page that you're on. They have a sort of affiliate scheme where people will share your product and they get a percentage cut of the sales. But it is unbelievably effective. They also said the majority of sales that they are made on TikTok Shop are impulse purchase. They're not a planned purchase. So we actually see a lot of people going back to repurchase, particularly our breastfeeding products. Breastfeeding hot chocolate is really popular on there. But often, people are literally just going, oh, that looks cool, I'll buy it. And it's so easy to buy. It's proper social commerce in a way that I think nobody's managed to do historically. So yeah, the stats we have are silly in terms of like year-on-year growth. I think last year we were doing about £2,000 or £3,000 a month on the platform, and now it's about 25k without really knowing what we're doing. Just sort of guessing. So every day I go on and people have always asked questions on our videos, so I'll reply to those, which is I think how we've always done well on social, that it feels more like a conversation and community building.
A personal touch.
Exactly. But it takes me about 15 minutes while I make a cup of tea just to answer questions. And then affiliates sort of buy our product, they like it, they share it, they're rewarded, which again, for us being kind of led by wanting to support women with our business, is amazing that you see these women who are on maternity leave and they can actually have, a decent income by sharing products that they like. I guess the problem comes if they're sharing ones that they don't like. But for us, we found an amazing community of women who love our products that we can then also say, well, you know what, could we use that video on Instagram and Facebook and pay you for that usage? And it's just benefiting them and their family and us. So I think social media is unbelievably important to our business.
Incredible.
Really.
And what about future plans to take this to the next level then? You've already talked about the growth on TikTok, and social media may be one way to go, but have you got any other ideas of developing the business? Yeah,
so for us, we're in all Holland Barrett stores, which is our biggest retailer. They're fantastic. And again, very mission led. If you're going into their store, you kind of have got a need that we help meet. So for us, it's about working similarly. Boots, I have been talking to for years and will eventually convince to take our product. And it's about that scalability. I think everything we do from now on, we've got a really strong brand and marketing basis, like via the social media, which helpfully is also monetized. But it's getting into those bigger scale retailers, which is hard because I don't think a lot of consumers understand how retail works and the amount of money you need as a brand to give to retailers in order to have success or even get listed is tricky. So for me, I pitched, I think the first time to Holland Barrett 3 years before we actually launched with them. And there were 3 different buyers who came in the interim that you have to kind of, you just get an out of office, then you have to go onto LinkedIn and desperately try and find who the right person is. But that kind of perseverance, if it then gets you into 750 stores, is what helps scale and get accessibility and proper kind of brand awareness. So that's what we need to do now. And to me, it's looking at people like Boots and Waitrose, where there are more doors available.
Will that fundamentally change the niche aspect of your business though? Because just the sheer weight of numbers of supplying Boots and Waitrose is going to be a very different game with all respect to Holland Barrett and Selfridges.
Well, yeah, so Holland Barrett, because we're in such a big distribution and we have such a good rate of sale with them, so we can have a 1.8 rate of sale, it's still, we move from producing 10,000 units, in a run, we do 100,000 units now. If we were to be able to launch into the same number of stores, then obviously that would increase. But we've got a supply chain that allows that at this point, which is great. I think it more comes into what do they expect in terms of, paying for shelf space or funding promotions, all the stuff that I've kind of learned on the job. And we know now actually like what works quite well with Holland Barrett to hopefully be able to replicate it. But my biggest challenge is I want to put a drinks product in a non-drinks area. So I think the big success for us comes from getting the baby buyer in Boots or the health and wellness buyer in Waitrose to put our product in a space where tea and coffee and hot chocolate aren't normally listed. We are about to do that, touch wood, in Australia with a pharmacy who are going to put in our 3 best-selling pregnancy and breastfeeding products into a baby aisle. And that'll be amazing data to be able to take across to Boots, because it's you're asking them to do something quite risky rather than just put in 3 different dummies or 3 different bottles, take one of those out and put in a hot chocolate. That's a weird request to make to to a buyer. But we know from our online sales where, our products aren't bought with biscuits and cake. They're bought with nipple cream and, tenor lady pads. And that's where there's a chance to drive incremental sales for a retailer, but also scale our business. But it is hard to convince them of that. So that's our current aim.
I'm intrigued also about your recent graduation from the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program. Tell us about that, how it came about and what this process has offered you.
So I cannot recommend that enough to anyone running a business. It's open. It's got quite broad requirements. I think it's a 250k turnover, so relatively accessible. But the aim is it's kind of Goldman Sachs's social work. It's interesting when you talk about like greenwashing and things. This is what they're choosing to put their money into because they see small businesses as hugely important to the UK economy, but obviously to their business as well long term. If you can help small businesses scale to be medium-sized businesses, then you've got more potential clients as Goldman Sachs, but you're also doing a good to the country and the economy. So it's a really intensive, almost like a mini MBA based at the Said Business School in Oxford and Aston University in Birmingham. It was over, I want to say 13 weeks. And you basically have access to the most insane level of teaching, entirely focused on your business. So nothing hypothetical, looking at other businesses or case studies. Your numbers, your plans. Are they realistic? How can they work? What should your values, purpose, mission be? Fully taking time out of the business to look at the business. And it was hugely helpful. And again, when you talk about sort of network and it being quite lonely, it's another great antidote to that. We have a big cohort kind of WhatsApp group. There's an alumni network. But you basically put into place a 5-year plan for your business, which I'm already like revisiting. I think I finished it about 6 months ago. But we've got somebody who wants to invest in the business, which might change my plans. So I'm kind of re-going over it. But I've got a structure there that I know is like a world-class approach to running any kind of business that I can then tweak and adapt and use. So I think in terms of giving you confidence as a business leader, because I always think sometimes I'm too open about this, but I don't think anyone knows what they're doing, right? Like, you can try and work out everything, but essentially you're making daily judgments that are either right or wrong.
Yes.
You have to take a punt at a certain point. You can't prove on a spreadsheet everything will perfectly work. You can obviously prove it to a safe degree, but no one really 100% knows what they're doing. This is like a structure that gives you confidence that those kind of punts that you're making are as good as they can be. And I certainly feel less like I'm guessing.
Take us through what's in this plan then. What's next for HotTea Mama? I mean, we're already in at Holland Barrett, Selfridges. The plans, you're still knocking on the door at Boots, but what is in that 5-year plan?
So for us, it's diversifying our product range. So obviously we were entirely herbal tea originally, but we launched a breastfeeding hot chocolate last year, which has been a bit of a runaway success, thanks to TikTok in part. But we're launching that, a decaf collagen coffee, a collagen cacao blend as well, and a matcha latte powder. So all meeting kind of those kind of missions that we know the women we cater to need, fatigue being a major issue, sleep support, hair, skin, all those kind of things. But meeting it not just with tea. So given that our brand name's HotTea Mama, it's when I presented this at Goldman Sachs, one of the critics was saying to me, it doesn't make sense because you're just about tea. Well, fingers crossed. Holland Barrett are putting the coffee into 500 stores and the hot chocolate into 500 as well. And we've seen like 80% month-on-month growth with the hot chocolate over the last couple of months. Yeah. So hopefully that's going to help us scale up. And then it is about dominating the UK. So getting into a wider retail, and in Australia, using Australia as a great case study as well for a distributor plan.
Oh, obviously HotTea Mama, that's only half the population. There's a whole lot of dadders out there that might fancy a cup of your tea. So have you looked at that?
So we do have quite a few men who drink our tea, which is obviously totally fine. There's no negative effect that is going to come, particularly sleep and stress support products. There's no reason that those should specifically be only for women. It's just that we know women over-index in insomnia and stress and anxiety. So we haven't looked at a specific kind of men's health range. I think we probably should long term, absolutely. And I think what we should do is just acknowledge the men who do enjoy the tea can have the tea as well. I think it's a benefit for us, as we were talking about earlier, about having your niche and do you limit yourself. I think as we are growing and scaling, there's probably still a good year to 2 years where we're just focusing on our core kind of mission and aims. But then absolutely, the dadas, the papas deserve some delicious drinks that can support them as well.
As we bring our conversation to a close, Bethan, what would you say to any purpose-driven small business or social enterprise that they stay on their mission focus? What are the top tips for operating a thriving business but still being true to yourselves?
Well, I think following your own gut, if your origin, like ours, this business couldn't have existed if I hadn't have been a tea buyer before, right? And if Kate and I hadn't had kids at the time we'd had and gone through the experiences we've had. So that fundamentally shapes the business. And when you receive criticism of like, oh, you're too niche, or you should, try and do this, that, or the other, there's a bit of bloody mindedness of just going, no, like, this is okay. We've been told by many a retailer, including Holland Barrett repeatedly, that we're too niche, but we were the number one NPD when we launched with them. Many far more generic brands have left the shelves in Holland Barrett, and we're there for a reason, and it's because we were right. And yet I just need to convince all the other retailers of the same thing, because I know when we get on shelf, we can have a better rate of sale than yet another Earl Grey.
Trust your gut.
Your gut
is one thing.
But then obviously, I think it's about growing sustainably so you can prove that trusting your gut's right. So for us, it was social media and the D2C element and growing a community that meant when we did launch into retail, we already had people looking for our product and buying it en masse in Amazon. And our Amazon sales are huge and have not decreased since we've expanded into retail. So I think if you can build up a good community base before maybe doing some of the things that do allow you to scale, that's good, because you'll have money in your pocket to invest, and you'll have people on the journey with you. Whereas if we'd have launched into Holland Barrett in the first year that we had been in existence, I think we would have failed. I can't know that. I'm trusting my gut. But we wouldn't have had the financial ability to support it, and we wouldn't have had enough people looking for us.
It's been a fascinating insight into your world, your background and your business. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thanks for having me.
Really nice to talk to you. Huge thanks to Bethan Thomas from HotTea Mama, and thank you for listening to OxTalks, now in its 4th series. There's now quite a back catalogue of previous editions of OxTalks available from where you normally get your podcasts. Let me point you towards an earlier episode featuring Gray Laws, Managing Director of Beyond Touch, and Guy Gadney, CEO of Charisma.ai, with some top tips for using AI in your business. There's also my conversation with Amrit Dhaliwal, Chief Executive at Woolfinch, and his sister Cam Gill, Managing Director at Woolfinch, Oxfordshire, discussing the key challenges facing the care sector whilst finding the right talent to support future growth. And don't miss the discussion on how to retain the best talent in Oxfordshire with Dr. Rajashi Banerjee from Prospectum, an Oxford-based medical equipment manufacturing company, alongside the Pro-Vice-Chancellor for Innovation at the University of Oxford, Dr. Chas Bountra. Every episode is well worth a listen. Please spread the word, tell your friends or colleagues about us, and if you feel so inclined, leave us a review. You can share your thoughts and suggestions on our social channels, and you can email your ideas for inclusion in future editions too. The address is on the podcast description. Business support in Oxfordshire is just a click or a call away. Enterprise Oxfordshire is at your service. The business support tool can signpost you to expert help in just a matter of minutes. So why not take a look? Find it on our website, enterpriseoxfordshire.com. But for now, from the whole Enterprise Oxfordshire team and from me, Howard Bentham, it's goodbye.